Hello and welcome to the BrightTeach Podcast, where we provide you with the tools you need in order for you to have success in your education and beyond. We believe that the way to success is by being in team, and the first team that every student is a part of is that with their family. So we've produced this to allow you to maximize your potential. Now today I've got with me Paul Edmonds, who's a great friend of mine. Paul, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here?
Okay, as Arnold said, I'm Paul Edmonds. I've been in business obviously quite a long time. I'm now an owner or a part owner of a number of businesses, one in property, one in management consultancy. So we go in to help businesses recover from a bad position or help businesses grow into something really healthy. I think I'm here because I'm a big believer in how businesses become excellent. So rather than a business becoming okay, what does it take to become highly profitable or highly successful? So just pushing those boundaries of how people manage, how they create improvements and culture. So that's why I think I'm here.
Yes, I mean, definitely. Like, the thing is, it's all about having high standards and reaching the best that you can reach. So whether it's in business or it's in school, it's about being the best that you can be, all right? And we want to be able to help our students actually achieve what it is that they can achieve 100%. Okay, right. So we're going to start off this whole podcast with a fun fact segment where Paul has to guess whether a statement is true or false. So Paul, here is something that I worked out in the week. You let me know whether you think it's true or false.
Okay.
70% of students don't reach their predicted grades. Do you think that's true or false?
Well, I know you lie quite regularly, so I have to let me think about this. 70% do not. I would have said that's probably a true statement.
Okay, well, believe it or not, it's false. In fact, it's actually 79% of students don't reach their predicted grades. So nearly 80% of students don't reach their predicted grades. But another thing that I worked out is there was a study done with over 600,000 students across the world, and they measured whether or not having a growth mindset, or basically having high standards, had an impact on their results. And they found out that it did. People who actually believed, do you know what, I can do better than this, I can move beyond where I'm at right now, actually ended up achieving or exceeding what they were anticipating. And they literally lived out as the 1%. They tried to be the 1%, which is something that I know, Paul, you're all about. For those of you who are listening, you're not sure what the 1% is. You probably have never heard it before, but you're going to hear it first here. So, Paul, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the 1% is and the story behind it?
Yeah, just a little bit of context, because it doesn't actually take very long. The context is the fact that how we operate as individuals has a big impact on what we do in our lives. Now, mostly we are at work a lot of the time. So how I conduct myself, what standards I set for myself 24 hours a day will have an impact on my family, my friends, my work, definitely my work. So when we're running businesses, which I've done, we're trying to work on an individual. So anybody listening to this is you. Any parent, any student, any business person. So the 1% is something we just came up to explain that. And so if you take an example of, let's say 75% of the people in the country, in the world probably actually, nearly do as they say. Which is okay. It's not a problem. So if I arrange to go for a drink with Arnold and we arrange to meet at 8 o'clock and we both arrive at 8:05, no one's really going to worry about that. We forgive each other. We probably don't even say sorry for that. And that's normal. But actually, it's less than what we said we're going to do. We said we'd meet at 8. Then you've got the 24% of the world. And when I say 24% of the people, I mean businesses as well. 24% of businesses will say, I'll do this by a certain time. I'll deliver a product by a certain time. I'll deliver a service by a certain time. 24% of them will do exactly as they said. So Arnold and I turn up at the pub exactly at 8 o'clock. Now, we both of us have done what we said we were going to do. And we're both surprised by that because Arnold's always late. So this is pretty good. But in a business context, if you're promising to deliver something for a client, or you're promising to give a report to a colleague or a teacher, or a professor or whatever, if you're delivering it just a little bit late, or it's not to the quality that was expected or you agreed to, you fall into the category of being the 75%. If you're doing exactly what they asked for, now you're only 24% of the people in the whole planet that actually do as they say. And that is rare, really is rare. The 1%, and this is where it is 1% for a very good reason. I'm sure it's actually less than 1% actually. 1% is I turn up at the pub 10 minutes early, and Arnold likes Guinness, and when he walks into the pub at 5 minutes past 8, there's a pint of Guinness already sitting on the table, a bag of his favourite crisps. Now I have gone over and above what the agreement was. If I'm delivering a product to a client and they want it on a Friday by 3 o'clock, but I call them on the Thursday and say, can we deliver early? There's actually extra on the lorry or whatever it is, so that you're now getting extra than what you agreed. What you've done is obviously you've achieved reaching your own standard or above, but you've now cemented a relationship with that person. Could be my friend Arnold, could be my client, my colleague, where they will not want to work with anybody else. And when we talk about differentiating ourselves against other businesses or other competitors, other colleagues, it's the 1% in me that will do that. And if everybody in my companies act the 1%, I don't need to worry about losing clients. I don't need to worry about that my people will leave my company, because I know that everybody is trying to do that 1%. I hope that explains where that came from.
Great, yeah, 100%. But I'd love to hear from you, take your thoughts on how this is, because a lot of people listening, you're probably going to be thinking, okay, that's great, I'm 15 years old, I'm not in a business right now. And how is it that me as a student can be 1% in the way that I approach my studies, in the way that I understand my content? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's another silly little story, I guess, but it probably just explains how we can do this. Anybody can do it. As soon as a child is old enough to reason, right up to any age, no matter what group. This is one size fits all. I've lived in and worked in 12 different countries. I've run multiple companies, and this approach works in every nationality, every race, every culture. So imagine I come home from school, I come home from work, and my daughter is standing on the doorstep of the house, and she's showing me her artwork, and there's a bowl of fruit that she's drawn at school. And it's a nice pencil drawing, and it's okay. She's not brilliant at art, but it's okay. And I say, this is lovely. What did the teacher ask you to do? So this is very much for maybe who may be listening to this. And she said, it's still art. It's still life. That's what it's called, still life. She asked me to draw a bowl of fruit. And I said, did you ask for colour and shading? Did she ask for that when she gave you the homework? And she said, well, no, she didn't. And I said, well, go back tomorrow. The homework's not due for a few days. Go back and ask, did she want colour? So the next day I come home and my daughter shows me her homework that she's now updated. It's now got colour and shading on it. And I said, what happened when you went to school? And she said, well, the teacher said, well, of course I want colour. It's an art class. But actually, the teacher hadn't said that. And when she originally gave the homework out, my daughter hadn't asked either. So there's a kind of a 50-50 deal there, whereby we as the teacher, which we are most of the time in business, but I'm also the student. I'm also the one that has to keep going back and asking to double check, is that okay, whatever. So anyway, my daughter's there with this nice bit of artwork, and I said to her, now you know what the teacher wants, what else can we do? And we've got some canvases in our house, I've done some painting. I said, why don't you go and redraw this on the canvas and do it with paint instead? So by the end of the week, when I came home from work, she's again standing on the doorstep of the house, big smile on her face. She'd taken her homework in. It had got an A star, and she definitely wasn't A star ability.
Nice.
Her headmaster had stood up in assembly and told the whole school, and the painting is hanging in the corridor of the school. And what you learn through that process is we play a part in both being the teacher and the student. Always remember to communicate very, very clearly and give the person on the receiving end the opportunity to question you. But then once you know what the teacher wants from you, then you get that opportunity, no matter what age group you are, the homework you're about to deliver. You know, if it's do a report, why not do colour? Why not put it in a folder? Why not put a bow around it? You know, why not make a few copies so that a few more people can see it? When you do that 1%, it is relevant to somebody who goes through school. So my daughter's talent, it's not talent only. She understood what makes a good result. So even though her natural ability at art wasn't brilliant, maybe a C+, she'd ended up with an A+, because she understood the parameters of what was required. Is that better?
Yes, exactly. Oh, 100%. I mean, that makes so much sense, Paul. Thank you.
Okay.
Because you're right, it is incredibly important. Firstly, even just to get clarity in what's expected of you. As a student, you need to be able to know what is expected of you. And sometimes your teachers, you know, they're doing a great job, but they may not take you the full way. So asking questions allows you to actually be above and beyond even maybe what some of your fellow students are doing. And what you're able to produce is going to be significantly more impressive just because you have more clarity. Yeah. It's not that you've necessarily done anything more than that. You've not, you know, really gone beyond the scope of what you're meant to learn. You're just trying to get more clarity, and that is like being the 1%. Also, Paul, I don't know, have you heard of the book?
I'm going to interrupt you, actually. What I was going to say is what we're talking about here is one of the best business skills that you can have when you leave school and go into work, because most people don't do this. If you can master the ability to understand what is being asked of you, so that means you're quizzing yourself, you know, quizzing the people who are talking to you, and then go 1%, that is the recipe for success in your working life. Because I know, you know, we all work with many, many people in business, and constantly you think you've told somebody the right thing. You think you've told them everything that they need to know, but you won't. You will miss out something. Or somebody telling it to you will miss out something, and then you go off in the wrong direction. So if you can master this, it's not just a great tool to use in school and college and uni. It's actually a business skill. And we invest an enormous amount in our workforces and our people in our businesses to understand what personal management is. Because you get that right, then your success will follow. Sorry, I interrupted you, Arnold, sorry.
Well, I mean, literally, I was just asking, you know, for the sake of the student who might be feeling a little bit overwhelmed. Right, okay, I don't even know what questions to ask. I don't even know where to go. One thing that helped me to kind of improve the output that I have, improve the way, you know, the work that I'm giving to my teachers, or perhaps the grades that I'm getting, was something called, have you heard of the book Atomic Habits?
I have, yeah.
Yes. And in that, they talk about not necessarily being the 1%, but just adding 1%. And I know, I'm confident you're familiar with the story of the British cycling team and David Brailsford. But for those of you who don't know about the British cycling team and David Brailsford, basically the British cycling team from about 1918 to 2003, right, nearly 100 years, were just not impressive at all. They weren't achieving anything in their whenever they did the Olympics or the Tour de France. In fact, they were so embarrassing that many European sportswear companies just were not willing to give their stuff to the British cycling team. And then in 2003, they hired somebody called David Brailsford, who believed in something called marginal gains, which is literally just adding 1%. Just if you could break down cycling into its individual facets that make up, Olympic cycling, and you just improved on it by 1%, and you accumulated that, you could have a massive, significant impact on the result of the individual. And that's exactly what happened in the next Olympic Games in 2008. These guys won 60% of all of the gold medals that could be won, which is incredible. And all they did was things like they changed the comfort of the seating when you're cycling. They shifted the pillows and the mattresses to make optimal sleeping conditions. They added ethanol to the tires to make them grip a little bit more. It was just a small thing. So from my experience, for you as a student, and especially if you're a parent here, to encourage your child, don't make them feel as though, you have to know exactly all the questions that you need to ask and to fully understand what you need to do. You just got to shift what you're doing by just 1%. Ask one more question. If there's something required of you, ask one more question. Think about maybe putting in, if you're trying to learn about cells, and you're trying to learn about the nucleus, just add an extra sentence or whatever it is. Just increase what you're doing by 1%. And if you do that on a regular basis, it just shifts the way in which you do your studies, which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, if anybody wanted to look into, if you go onto YouTube, there's some lots of good films about David Brailsford being interviewed on this very subject. So
Yes, yeah, 100%. What would you say, Paul, are 3 takeaways from what we've just talked about today?
I would say, if somebody is in a situation whereby you're hearing from your teacher, this is what we're expecting from you, I'd write it down. I'd write it down while they're talking to you. Writing it down and also listening, that's 2 ways that you're actually obtaining the information you need. I would, after you've finished writing it down, I would ask if I can tell you back what you just told me. So this is where I say back to Arnold, who's just asked me to do something for him, right, am I right here? You want me to do X, Y, and Z? And you go, oh yeah, but I forgot to tell you about A, B, and C. So when I actually then throw it back to you, what I walk away with is a little bit more than I already had. And that's the bit that's probably going to help me deliver a really good outcome, like a painting with a bowl of fruit on it. And the last one is, I would encourage everybody to then run it past someone else. So we do this in business. We ask people when they're making decisions in management teams, go and ask someone else. I'm about to make this decision. What do you think? So if you've taken away some information and you're trying to understand what it is that's expected of you, and then look for the 1%, go and share that with someone else. There'll be someone else in the same position as you. You'll probably be helping them as well, which is a blessing. But to be able to come back and go, I'm thinking of doing this, what typically happens is that they go, wow, that's a brilliant idea. How about that or that? And now you're adding 1% on top of another 1% on top of one. And that's how the cycling team, it wasn't a one-off 1% exercise. It's a 1% every day. So, they would be the 3 things that I think people can adopt today. You don't need a degree to do that. Write it down.
Yes.
Go back and confirm what you've already heard. then you make sure you walk away with the information you need. And the last one is go and share it with someone else and discuss what you're going to do. And the outcome of those three things will be it's an A star, not a C minus.
Yes, 100%. I think, like I said earlier, we strongly believe in team. So students, as much as you can involve your parents or even other members of your family in your work, the better it will be. And I know sometimes you're like, I can't be bothered to add them. I'm telling you that the benefits that will come out of it will be far more than if you were to approach this thing on your own. So make sure that you are involving your family in what's going on, but then also involve your teachers. Ask your questions. As Paul has been saying, write down what's been said. If you add this small thing, it is going to shift. Slowly, you're going to start to see differences in the results that you're achieving compared to what you would have achieved if you weren't applying these things. But we have unfortunately come to the end of our podcast. Paul, it has been incredible having you. Thank you so much for the privilege of that. And thank you all of you for listening. Come back next week for another conversation that we're going to be having. But thank you all and speak to you soon.